Our special guest is a mortgage financial leader, entrepreneur, author, sought-after speaker who went from working oil fields and driving long-haul trucks to become one of the most respected figures in investment property lending. Wow, that's a great transition from what he's did to what he's doing now. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show our special guest, Aaron Chapman. Hi, sir. Thanks for joining us today.
So, Paulus, thanks for the invite, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Hey, tell us more about yourself and how did you transition from long haul? Were you studying as you do the long haul and then transition to what you did now? Because I will never guess that you went from long hauling to speaker. How did that all happen?
Well, the transition was actually slightly even different than that. I was working in the mines in northern New Mexico just before the transition happened. The transition didn't come because I was intending it to happen. I expected my entire life would be one where I earned my living with my back and my hands. That was the expectation. I grew up in my high school years around a cattle ranch. Then from the oil fields of Wyoming to running heavy equipment to driving truck to then the mines of northern New Mexico, where you're breaking rock with a 160-pound drill machine. You're loading up with several cases of explosives. Step around the corner, blow it up, dig it out with a loader. Support your ground and do it again. But the problems that happen in a mining operation is the deeper you go, the further it takes, the further it is from the surface, whatever ore you're mining. And so the costs continue to go up. On top of that, the market would demand, it would tell you what the value is of that particular ore. So when the value of the ore goes down or the demand goes down and the cost is going up all the time, sometimes they'll have to pause what they're doing until the value goes up high enough. So shrink the market by stopping what you're doing, let the price go up, and then open it back up. When that happens, the guys who are underground working to get that ore to the surface, they got to let them go for a while. Well, I didn't have a whole lot of time that I could go without that job. So I started looking for other jobs, and I'm looking for other jobs that I was qualified for, which was trucking and heavy equipment and welding, and of course mining and other things. And I kept getting told this one statement: overqualified. And it was interesting to me. I'm either qualified or I'm not. I'm 23 years old. I didn't understand why I was being hit with that by everybody. And it got to a point where things were becoming desperate. My wife gave me a coupon for free diapers when I left that morning to go interview for another truck driving job, which is going to be a job hauling landscape rock for $10 an hour. Now, it was far below any pay that I'd ever received since I was a teenager, but I needed something. So I went to that location. I received the exact same statement: overqualified. And as I'm leaving there, trying to compose myself, I jump in my truck. I start heading down the road to go find a grocery store that I can use that coupon at. And then my gas light comes on in my truck. Now, I had not driven that particular vehicle very long on a gas light, and I had no idea how far I could go. So I stopped at the first gas station I could find, which happened to be sharing a parking lot with the grocery store that was the same grocery store I needed for the diapers. So I pulled up to a gas pump. I pulled out my debit card. I said a quick prayer, swiped my debit card, and I got a decline. So I rifled through my truck hoping for a lost dollar. I found a few coins. I locked the doors on my truck, and I started walking that parking lot for what seemed like a couple of hours, picking up every coin I could find. Now, when you're walking along and you see a quarter on the ground, you willingly pick it up, right? But back then, in that environment, in that situation, I would look around to make sure nobody was watching me because there's a very embarrassing scenario. So I picked up everything I could: pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, all of that. Went and exchanged those handfuls of change for a couple gallons of gas. Now, again, this is 1997. People were still carrying change, and gas was under $1 a gallon. So it was easier to be able to achieve what I needed to achieve than it would be in today's environment. So then I went into the store, exchanged the coupon, found the coupon, the diapers I needed for the coupon, stood in line. As I'm standing in line, again, I'm looking at who's watching me because, again, another situation in my life I didn't ever want to have to be in. And yet I'm amongst other people who are seeing me at my worst. And as I got those diapers, I'm getting out of there. I have my head down, not making eye contact. And I heard the worst thing I could have heard in my life at that time, which was my own name. I was being recognized in that experience. And this man who recognized me, his name was Keith, approached me. We got to talking. I sugarcoated my scenario. He asked me if I wanted to go to dinner. I'm like, hey, I'm not in a position to go out to dinner. He goes, no, I got a gift certificate. I'll take you to Red Lobster. So he took my wife and I to Red Lobster, and he introduced me to the mortgage industry in 1997. So I had to cut a foot off of my hair, shave. My mom bought me some business-like clothes, and I started as a telemarketer in the industry. So vastly different environment. I didn't intend to go into it, but I had no other choices. Now, I look back on that. The thing that stands out the most is the prayer that I offered at the pump. I prayed that my debit card would work, but instead of it, my prayer was answered that I had to go and hunt down coins to pay for my gas. And when you think about the timing of running into keys, had I been able to find coins faster because more of them were dropped, I would have been able to get out of there faster. Had it taken longer to find enough coins to get the gas I was looking for,
He
I would
would
have still might have been walking around that parking lot and I could have avoided him. But me walking out as he's walking in, the unavoidable scenario was placed in a way that God answered that prayer. So nearly 30 years later, here I am,
wow.
still in the industry, experienced some great things in the industry, experienced some amazing lows in the industry, some amazing highs, a lot of things that that brought me a lot of opportunities, and now sit as the executive vice president of investment lending for a firm out of
Wonderful story. Wonderful. Couple things. Do you still know Keith?
Yes, I still know Keith. In fact, I took him out for a steak was it probably about a year or so ago to thank him again for that experience. And what's interesting is we hadn't reconnected for a long time, and I wanted to get back in touch with him. I finally found a number for him, and we went out to dinner, and I shared that story. He had no idea what he had done. He had no idea the hand he played in my life.
Out here in Arizona now, they're talking about mining copper and stuff again. They're really talking real big. There's one place up northwest of in Arizona. They're going through the whole process that is happening. Now, talk about a little bit. Is there a fear factor with that? How afraid, as a person, as a spouse, would they be going to? You talk about that?
That's it's an extremely dangerous environment. One of the most
Yeah,
dangerous environments in the world because your ability to survive is based upon your ability to support that ground properly and be trained properly to do what you're doing. Plus, you're going into a newly fragmented ground. You have no idea what the fragments are on the other side. And of course, explosives, and they have ventilation fans down there. I've had the vent fans go down, so now you have heavy equipment being run down there. There's a lot of things that can happen and go wrong, but it's exciting. To me, it was the greatest job I ever had. It
yeah,
still is the greatest
yeah.
job I've ever had. I enjoyed every bit of it. But yeah, the first couple of days is very unnerving because you're underground. You're in this tunnel. It's 11 by 11, and that's it, and it's just you and one other person working in this dark area, and the only light you have is what's on your head, and that's it. But the work is so hard and so intense that you have to be so focused that I remember my best shift was I got down and started working, and then I saw a light behind me because we communicate with our lights. You move your light a certain direction, you know that somebody's communicating to you. So I was being communicated to as I'm drilling into the face of this heading, and I turned to see my boss, and there was a couple guys in the back of our transport truck. I'm like, "You guys going out to lunch? What's going on?" He goes, "No, shift's over." I'm like, I hadn't even taken lunch yet. I was so focused that I blew through a 10-hour shift, what felt like 2.5 hours. And I was just moving rock. And it was a really, really good shift. And I enjoy every bit of what I was doing.
Outstanding. Thanks for sharing that, Aaron. Okay,
Of course.
so now you wrote a nice book, Next Guide to Achieving Success. Tell us about that, how that came about, and kind of give us a little teaser about that a little bit.
So the book Redneck is an interesting phrase to come about, and I don't remember how I came up with it. I think it was I was speaking at an event, and always speak on economics and inflation, and because of how I dress and how I look, a lot of times people like, I was always being introduced as the redneck faction of the panel up there, and so I started using that term, redneck economics, to describe my version of economic thought processes for real estate investors. So then I'd never used it in written form before, and then you get a guy by like Robert Allen. I don't know if you know the name Robert Allen, but
Yes,
he's a monster in the real estate investment space, and he was speaking at an event as the keynote. I ended up developing a friendship with him. And what he started speaking on, instead of speaking on real estate, he started speaking on the top 10 mistakes that authors make. Well, I had already written other books, and I have those here too, and these books were instead of one big book, I wrote multiple. Took one big book and it took the chapters and turned them into their own little book, right? And so there are concepts that I think people need to have. And what I discovered is everything you said you shouldn't do, I did with these. And I had four more to release. So I cornered him and say, hey, how about I work with you on getting these taken back from the publisher and we redo them and re-release them? He goes, no, you're going to write another book. I'm like, I don't want to write another book. And I said, I already wrote these. I just want to fix them. He goes, no, no, no. You have another story to tell. So he convinced me to write this. and then he wrote the forward. Well, there's another guy big into the real estate investment space. His name is Dolph DeRusse. He wrote the afterword. And what really is awesome about this is, Robert convinced me to get it illustrated. So now you have these extreme illustrations where my brother read the book. I convinced him to do the illustration. He read the book and he would paint what he saw. So he read the forward and he painted the forward. He'd read each chapter and he'd paint the chapter. And it became a extremely expensive proposition to have him do that. So there's nearly $100,000 worth of art. Now, that's not what he charged me. He treated me a lot better than that, but it was still a significant number that we paid just for the art in producing this book. He painted the cover. He painted, I think, there are 60 images inside the book, and that's what makes it unique. Now, it's not a book on six. It's not a book on as far as like financial strategies. This is a book of resilience. This is a book of a person's commitments and the fact that their life is going to throw you a beating no matter what you choose to do. Whether you choose to work and become successful, or whether you choose to lay there and be miserable, you're going to get beat on one way or the other. So you might as well take the beating doing what you enjoy doing, because you're still going to take a beating one way regardless, right? So that being the situation, there's a resilience that comes from continuing to move forward when you're taking that beating. And that's mainly what the book is about. And really getting people to understand that that's coming. And then what are all the principles associated with where that success is going to come from? Now, this is all from Aaron Chapman's perspective.
Yeah,
This is not, and I'm only giving you things that I understand, things that I've experienced, things that I have done, beatings that I have taken. And also letting people know I don't have it figured out
right,
at all.
right.
All I have is an enormous amount of scars on my body, figuratively and in reality, and also a lot of miles on the soles of my feet of things of places I have been and things that I have done, both wrong and right, and still undetermined what's wrong and right with my current decisions, and hoping people just trying to help people have enough resiliency to keep trying to figure out what's on the other side of the next hill.
Who was your mentor? Is there somebody you looked up to and said, "Okay, I'm gonna follow this person because he speaks real well"?
I just picked up from every single direction I
No
could.
kidding.
So I determined, and it's over the last probably decade, I've had a new definition of success. And I have found that success, in my opinion, well, at least my definition, it's in relationships and experience. And so you start to develop relationships and you start picking up on things that each person is doing. You start seeing things you like about what that person is doing. There's things you don't identify with. There's things you dislike. And you start picking and incorporating things that make sense. I would say that I've had hundreds of mentors because I've had hundreds of relationships in business and in personal relationships that you pick up on different things that people do. And because of that, I have found that it's made it easy for me to be able to determine for myself who I am and what I'm about and be willing to share all those things willingly. I think there's a lot of people who could be very well spoken and have a lot to share, but they choose not to because they believe nobody cares. And in reality, nobody does care. They care
Right.
about themselves. So you have to care about you. Since nobody's going to give a shit about you, you have to give a shit about you. And when you start to do that, you start to determine whether or not you have enough value to share something with the rest of the world. And believe me, we all have some form of value. And it may only be to your spouse or your children or your grandchildren, but those are still people that need influence and they need good influence. They need a good, solid, Christ loving person in their life to be able to offer that same kind of love to them.
You believe that people are so doubted of themselves, so hard for them to get over their own troubles. Why do you think we go through that doubt?
Because that's the easiest thing. We go with what's easy. It's easier to doubt your ability than it is to actually have faith in your ability. Because when you have faith in your ability, now you have to work, right? And if a person says, I can climb that mountain, what do they got to do now? They got to climb the damn mountain. And mountains are not simple things to get up. Look at Everest. Look at how many lives it claims every single year.
Yeah.
But when you doubt it and say, I can't do that, now it's easy. You don't have to climb it. You literally are correct either way. And I think that we as humans are our own worst enemy in the sense that we understand exactly what excuse we'll accept. We know exactly how to negotiate ourselves out of something. I know precisely how to keep my ass off of Everest. I know exactly what things I can say to myself to ensure that I don't set aside the money, I don't do the training, I don't trek my ass across the globe and go start hiking up this big, massive killer of a mountain. Now, the whole thing about Everest with me is not a matter of whether I can or I can't. It's about I just don't want to. And I'll just be honest with me, I don't have an interest in that. I have great respect for people who do that. And I think it'd be one of the awesomest things in the world to stand up on top of Everest and take that selfie. I'm just not interested. My interests are other things. It's kind of like golf. I'm not interested in golf. I don't want to waste an entire well, probably an entire Saturday wandering around on a big monster lawn, chasing around a ball to put in a hole for what end? What do I achieve at the end of the day? Nothing, right? If I'm going to go do something like that, that's going to make me feel good at the end of the day, yeah, I guess you can get some exercise. But a lot of people aren't getting exercise. They're sitting in their cart and they're drinking beer and they're playing golf. That might be an awesome day for them. That could be the entire achievement of their week, the highlight of their week. They worked all week long. They put in 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day or 15 or whatever it is. So they can afford the green fees at a really nice course. They can afford really nice clubs. They can afford to rent a very nice cart and have a very good dinner at the clubhouse. And that could be the greatest experience of their week. And if that's the case, go do that. Enjoy that. But don't give yourself excuse as to why you can't do that. There's ways that you can set aside and you can structure your life to make sure that that happens every week. It's
Yeah,
possible, but you have to decide
yeah.
that. And I believe that that to me, the definition of a success has to be defined by you, has to be created by you, and that's something you have to negotiate with yourself to achieve all the time. I have a big problem with what we see on social media. So many people giving us their definition of success. And I would say a large percent, I can't say what percentage, I don't know, but a large percentage is undoubtedly fake. People are renting these cars, putting on these fake watches, staying at renting a place for the weekend just to make it look like they got some spectacular existence and that they're better than you. When in reality, they're trying to just make themselves feel better because people don't love themselves. We live in an environment where we have laws, we have issues, we have all these things going on in our world, we have all these social contracts that are being violated, and we have to create more laws because we as a species have failed to adhere to the first 10 that we've ever been given that Moses brought and produced for us, right? If we were able to live by those, we wouldn't need all these. The first two have to do with loving your neighbor as much as yourself. But the problem is people don't love themselves. So they have to make themselves, their neighbor, look worse than them so they can at least have some semblance of love for themselves. But at the same time, they're crushing everybody else around them while they're still crushing themselves because that's a fleeting feeling. And let's just take that feeling. Everything we do is for a feeling. Everything. Not a single thing we do in life is attached to anything else but how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our environment. If we're chasing feelings to exist, why don't you just create the feeling? Why do you have to go through all these steps? Why do you have to go through all these things when you can literally just create the feeling within yourself and have that? And I believe that if we follow along with what we've been taught in our whether it be our Sunday school or wherever you get that, reading the Bible, reading other scripture, and really diving into these things, you can create those feelings. Your connection with your creator can create those feelings. And you can change your existence to experience those things without having to go through all this nonsense.
Aaron, at this time, please tell us where do we go after the show to learn more about you and to get your wonderful guidebook?
You can go to aaronchapman.com, and that's just for me directly. That goes to my business site. If you want the book, you can go to Amazon. It's there. Redneck Economics is available on Amazon. If you want to go to the website that's for the book, it's quitjerkingoff.com. Yes, that's exactly the website. And I mean that figuratively and in reality. And I define that as a person wasting time on things of zero value, which is exactly what you're doing when you're doing it, whether in reality or you're doing it figuratively. Those kind of things, people are spending a lot of time being wasted on stuff that doesn't create anything for anybody. You can check me out on social media. I've got a Facebook account. I've got a Instagram account. I'm on a whole bunch of things. And you're trying to find something spectacular from Aaron Chapman's going to change your life. I don't know that you're going to find it. What you might find is a couple stories. You might find a couple of little notes that might give you a little bit of inspiration to make a few changes in your life. Because the only person that could have influence on you is you. Period. The influence that I offer is thoughts. I want to get you to think. And when you read the afterword written by Dolph, he pushes on that really heavily, that I have been able to give a man like Dolph a reason to rethink things. And if we can do that with people, give them a reason to think and rethink and adjust their thoughts and maybe improve those thoughts, we have done something spectacular in this world. And if there's anything I can do for folks, is to help them to understand that you need others around you. You need to care about those people around you. You need to care about yourself. You need to care about your creator. You need to care about your God. You need to actually get in tune with whatever it is you believe. I'm a very Christian man. I believe I have a heavenly Father. I believe that he has a Son, Christ, who died for us. But there's a Holy Spirit, and we can connect on a very intimate level with them if we are willing to. but we have to make that move. We have to step forward. I'd heard this as a kid. There was a phrase called "You need to be anxiously engaged in a good cause." So if you're anxiously engaged in something and your time is focused in that, and others will come along who are engaged in the same thing, and those who are not, they will fall away and prune themselves out. Now they will come around. They'll reach out to you and you have to say, "Hey, no, I've got this scheduled here and I got to do this here. I'm sorry, I can't make that. I got to be here." And the more you're focusing your time and your energy on something that you're engaged in very anxiously, the more you will attract those who are part of that and the less you'll attract those who are not. Right now, my investing world, I work all with real estate investors. That's my main role in the lending world is to help them buy investment real estate and build up their holdings, help them with their entity structures, connecting them with the right people. And right now, my real estate investment strategies, they're also changing a bit. They're changing to be more for the sake of my family. And what I mean by that is rather than me just buying houses and collecting a check, it's buying properties that I can get all my family close together with me. I'm not just a father now, I'm a grandfather. I don't have kids anymore, I have adults. So all my four children are all adults now. My oldest is approaching 30. My youngest is approaching 20, and I have two in the middle there. Three of them are married. Two of them have kids, and I have three grandchildren out of that. And they're fragmented. There's one that lives next door to me, one that still lives in the house, two that live in Missouri, and I have one grandchild in Missouri. So I am selling my Arizona assets and I'm up and moving the whole family to Missouri. We're all going to be very close to each other. We're going to work together on the same property, do it working together in the same enterprise. And we're going to build our family wealth with that. And it's going to go into the family. And when I leave this world, they're already going to have that enterprise operating. They're going to have revenue, capital, life insurance benefits coming in that's going to fuel the housing for every generation I have that's going to follow me. My goal when I exit this earth is that there's nobody in I guess the future of my bloodline that will ever have to wonder how are we going to pay for a home, because the trust will create the opportunity for them to something to rent from the trust, but they will be a beneficial owner of that same structure. So it's something we've been working out for a long time. It's coming to fruition. I'll be working on the next book as I do this, so I can give people practical information on how to use it.
Viewing failure as a stepping stone, describe failure as an integral part of a journey. So we fail, we get some bad news. That could be a stepping stone. That could be how we start to go up. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it kind of staying on the Everest thought, right?
Yeah.
What we might find is a failed path, because there's a lot of different paths to get up there. The landscape keeps changing, right? They have the ice falls along those areas. They have how the glaciers are moving. Every failed path that you had opens up a new path to take, so you can successfully continue to go to where you're heading. Now we look at things as failures, but really it's some of the greatest educations I've ever had is things that mistakes that I made, places I shouldn't have been. And one of the things I like to talk about on my team, and we're still wrapping our head around. I mean, I've been telling my team this for over 10 years here at work, is when something is done that was incorrect and we need to call it out, we need to talk about it. You stepped on the landmine. A mistake was made. It caused a problem on a transaction. We need to talk about that mistake, because what it does, it prevents everybody else from stepping in the same spot. Why hide it? If you cover it back up, all you do is put more dirt on the landmine for somebody else to blow their leg off. And all we're going to have is a bunch of legless people. So let's point out the landmines. Let's give everybody the information. So when you make a mistake, own it, be aware of it, point it out to everybody else, so we can successfully avoid that in the future. And that's what we have. If you get into understanding the memory of mistake, our memory has a way of retaining that really well. You don't remember the good things you did. You don't remember the positive moves you made, because you were just living life. You don't realize that every time you do something correct, all it did was just move you along. It just felt like Tuesday, another step. But you remember with extreme clarity the big tough beats that you had, especially when it was a decision you made and you had to deal with. It's a very, very strong memory. So because it's such a strong memory, we accept that, we remember that, and we know to stay away from that. But it's amazing how much we can avoid doing the right thing over and over again, because sometimes we don't even know we did the right thing, but we do know when we did the wrong thing. So we can use that to our advantage because that memory is so clear. See, there's something that does fire me up about the book more so than anything, and it's on the very last page. So my mother did not get a copy of the manuscript to read. I didn't give that to her. I didn't let her read the book until it was in full print, her or my father, because they still have influence over me. I'm 51 years old and they still have influence over what I do and think and whatever. Right. And I knew that it might change had my mother read the manuscript before it gets into the out into the public hand. And I remember when it was off to go to the printer, she had asked me in the conversation, she goes, I have a question. Would you be ashamed if Christ himself read this book? I'm like, Mom, he's already read it 3 times. So I don't know what to tell you. And she kind of chuckled. She goes, okay. Well, finally, I brought her a copy of a printed version, one of the first versions, for her just to see the artwork. And she goes, I'm going to
Sure.
keep this and read it. I'm like, okay, keep it and read it. So she kept it and she read it. And then she met up with me a couple days later. She read it three times. And she said to me, I wished I had this to give you when you had turned 8. She goes, because there's a lot of good information here. And I can tell you, yes, you can be very okay with the Savior reading this book. She goes, but there's a few words you use that I'm sure he doesn't like, because I get very, very open with it. Well, then I'm working out one morning and I'm doing shoulders. I'm finishing up a set. And my phone's ringing. It's my mom. So I finished that set. I picked up, say, hey, what's going on, Mama? She goes, can I talk to you about your book? I go, oh, great. Here it is. She found something she's going to bust my chops over. And she goes, I've read your book for the 5th time now. And I have to tell you, I can now forgive myself for mistakes that I made as a mother that I've been carrying with me for the last 30 years. I'm like, wow. I said, okay, two questions here, Mama. I said, one, how many books have you read 5 times outside of scripture? She goes, none. And mind you, my mom knows like Jim Rohn, and she knew Zig Ziglar and people like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
personally. So you never read any of their books that many times? She goes, no, just this one. I said, okay. So then take your mama's hat off here and tell me what happened here with this whole thing. And she started explaining what had happened to her when she was reading the book. And she sent me a picture of the highlighted final page that brought her to that conclusion. And right above where she had highlighted on page 159, I started reading. And those words that were not even highlighted, I had written in here. It says, let me tip my hat to you here for making your way through this pile of disruption. But it only puts you at 20% done. You got 4 more reads through before you start to get it. I pray you find new words of wisdom and slivers of hope each time you venture back through. Flip to page 1 and start now, lest you fail to do so later. As for me, I'm firing up the saw. Got more jungle to cut. Best get to creating a new trail of where this stack of words is going to take me. Now, when I look at those words, I told the reader that if you've read this once, you're only 20% done. You got 4 more reads. I was talking to my own mother. I didn't realize that at the time,
Mm,
that those words were written for her, because when she got through it on the 5th time, she was able to let go of all those things that she'd been carrying for so long, and it changed her life. So if anything, this book itself was written for, whether it sells 1 million copies or just a few thousand that has been sold, I don't care, because the person who needed to read it read it.
read it.
And the person who needed the words got it.
Outstanding. That's outstanding. Before we get to a final comment, tell the listeners again, where do we go after the show to buy your book?
Amazon, look up Redneck Economics by Aaron Chapman. You can go to quitjerkingoff.com. You can go to aaronchapman.com. There's a spot on aaronchapman.com. You can click on books.
Outstanding. Final comment, sir. Is there a critical takeaway you would like us to remember about overcoming excuses and achieving what you like to be?
I believe that there is this unseen, ominous foot that's out there just ready to kick your ass all the time, all day, every day. But I also believe that it gets up at a certain time every day. My foot, I believe it wakes up at 7:15. So I wake up at 4:30. I get up before the foot does. I start choosing what I'm going to do with my day before anything else is happening. So 4:30 when I wake up, I get moving. I hydrate, and then I'll go start moving. I'll start listening to things that will help me spiritually to prepare myself for my day. And I connect with my God, and I start having those conversations as I'm walking. And then I get a workout done, and then I go in a shower and I get prepared, and I dress for the day, and then I have breakfast. And then I go straight into my work, and I read every single morning. I wrote this book in those mornings like that. Took me 5 months to write the book. Took nearly 3 years to produce it because of all the art, but the book has nearly been unchanged since its original draft. It's only just fleshed out a few of the stories was all that was added, but virtually unchanged from that original draft in those moments. A person can achieve a lot in their life if you take a little bit of extra time to add to your day, and it can be found in the quiet hours when nobody else is pulling at you. The average person tends to wake up within 30 minutes before they need to be doing something else. You now are already in front of that foot. That foot has got you all day long at that point. You're not going to win. If you're having to drive to work and put on your makeup while you're driving, you are already got that foot behind you and it's already whooping the shit out of you. And if you're one of those type of people that are at a rush, first thing, it doesn't take much to get you off of your day. It can take one person cutting you off. It can take one person with a broken down vehicle. All of these things, but if you plan ahead, you can have a very calm, very very controlled life, and you can control how you feel. How you feel is what you're chasing anyway. Everything you're looking for in your life is how you feel and what's going to make you feel better about you. You get to choose that. And one of the choices you can make is wake your ass up an hour earlier than what you're doing now. That will change how you feel because of what you do with that time.
Beautiful. Aaron Chapman, everybody. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. You're awesome, very powerful. We'll talk to you real soon. Great stuff. Love to come back anytime. And thanks for being the first guy with us on Riverside. It's awesome. You made it a lot easier for me. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. I
No,
appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Hollis, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about you and your son and how we can help you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. Bye bye.
All right, buddy.
All right, guys. What a great, great show.